Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make your fondant into that lovely fondant that I use for my custard and cream slices, my ice buns and stuff like that. Because obviously you've made up your fondant, but there's something you have to do to it to get that extra special finish. Anyway, we'll get right on with the video. Now in the industry, this is commercial fondant. It's exactly the same way as if I make it. It's exactly the same way as you make it. It's 3 ingredients and that's it. Also, I add in a mixture into it as well. After it's been done, before I'm actually making it into. Now when I'm icing my buns, to get that nice finish, commercially, we have to add something into it. In the old days, I'd get, say, 5 of those big boxes, and a bucket of this and mix it all together in a big machine, and that gives us that sort of finish because we want our fondant just right for decorating. I'm going to show you what I do to get my fondant, straightforward fondant, and this stuff. This is like an icing, but it's got like emulsifier in it and fats, which it's the fats which go into the fondant that help the fondant get that nice smooth finish, and also it keeps it nice and soft. We're not going to go that far, but we're going to go far enough, because if we go too far, the fondant would be no good for icing. It will only be good for filling. And now I'm going to show you what I do commercially. Right, first of all, we'll get some of this stuff out. You'll see what I mean. It's basically like an emulsifier. It's got fat, sugar, and all sorts of different stuff in it. Obviously, you can't buy this anywhere, so I'm going to show you how to make something like this. And as you can see, this is actually block fondant. So this is a bit scaled up on that little pot of fondant you've made. You can imagine in the old days, I used to use 5 of these blocks to make up fondant and 1 bucket. So you can just imagine how many cakes I was doing. And with this stuff, always water and that's it. Now what we're going to do is pop this in the microwave for around about 3 minutes. Now sometimes when you're doing this type of recipe, you do need to add a little bit of water into it. But the idea is to add water and sugar together, mixed. What we used to do in the bakery, all the leftover apricot jam pots, we used to take all the bits out of them and boil them all up on a hob and then put them through a sieve. And so you got this nice thin, clear, weirdly enough, even with apricot, it was clear liquid, but it was like a sugar, and all you did is add that into the fondant. That worked just the same. You can use golden syrup, whatever, or I mean, you can use just water if you want. I mean, the professional way of doing it is adding a syrup. In one video, I'll show you how to make this syrup up. Well, it's not quite ready, so we're going to give it a good stir up. You can see it's still not broken down enough, but you just give this a good stir in. Now, the important thing is to make sure it doesn't get too hot. Now at this stage, you don't want to burn. If you burn your fingers on it, it ain't no good. So you're just blending it, so you want to keep the temperature right. You want this nice smooth finish. Now a good way of testing it out, put your finger into water and then pop it in, and you can feel the temperature. Now this doesn't want to be any hotter. So that tells me one thing. If it was very, very tight, I'd have to add some liquid into it. So I'm going to add a little bit of liquid, not a lot, because you can go the opposite way, by the way. So if you make it too soft, you'll make it more like a filling. All right, we'll scrape that off. And that's all ready. Right, now this is the fondant that you made at home, and this is what I made at home. We'll say it is because this is actually factory stuff, to be honest. But we'll say it is, all right? And what we do then, to get this, the same as mine, you have to add in some like fat or some description. So the best move is, and this is what I find, this is Trek or white shortening, and whatever you want to call it, it's white shortening. And all we're going to do is add this into here and warm it up. Now, remember that what happens to fat when you add it to water? It floats. So when you get that fat on the top, you've got to scrape it off. But all you want out of this stuff is the emulsifier and the special fats it's got in it. The fat residue that off the top, you can just take that off. But the idea is you're now going to mix this all together and make it nice and soft. And we now know from the other one, we do need a little bit of water. So I'm going to pop that in the microwave for 1 minute. Well, I've just got this out of the microwave. We'll give it a good stir around. And this is the bit where, like I said, the fat will most likely float on the top. Now you've really got to mix this all in. And you only use white shortening, you don't try using margarine or anything. Turn the fondant from white to yellow. And what's happening to this now is the fat is breaking down. Right, just give this another minute in the microwave. And we'll just give this a good mix round. Okay, you'll say it's not the same as the bought stuff. Well, no, you're not going to get exactly the same as the bought stuff by a long shot. But it's about as close as you can get. And it just so happens I've got some buns. Pick one up, dip it in. And if you want to, just use a palette knife. I'm going to take the top of the donut, straight round the top, like that. And all we're going to do is drop it into the vermicelli, like that. But there you go, guys. It was that simple to turn your fondant into something you can actually use. Now you can just use the fondant as it is, because sometimes, or most of the time, when I'm making the fondant up, it comes out almost spot on every time. But even if it doesn't, and it does come out like a chunk, you need to break it down. You can do it with other things. You can actually do it with sugar and water if you want. You can do a mixture of adding icing into it as well, like icing, sugar and water. That'll also do the same thing. But all you're doing is getting it nice and soft, but you don't want to get it hot. Usually the old boy used to say to me, Steve, it's blood temperature, whatever blood temperature is. So he always says, if you dip your finger into the fondant and you can't hold your finger in it, it's too damn hot. So the rule of thumb is if you can't put your finger in it, it's too hot. Don't forget to check the description for your recipe, and also there may be something down there that may interest you, like playlists, etc. And if you want to subscribe and do share. Anyway, we'll see you again very shortly on the Crazy Baker channel. Laters! This is the Crazy Baker channel. Baking. Lifestyle. Recipes. Reviews. I am the Crazy Baker. Please subscribe and please share. Laters!